Alright, so we're going to start painting up this gun now, and what my friend wants to go for is sort of like the cartoon, the old X-Men cartoon look for the gun. That's kind of what this gun is from. So he's taking like elements from all the cable, like, you know, storylines, cartoons, comic book storylines, and he's making his Holy Grail, basically, statue. So in a cartoon, this gun was kind of like, oh, like a gray-white. It's kind of like a silver type gun almost type thing. So we're going to kind of follow that. But we're not going to make it just like pure, you know, like chrome silver on it and then be done with it. We're going to add a little bit of life to it and make it look a little pop a little bit more. So what I had right here is half a bottle of flat aluminum from Tamiya, and then I had some Titan silver. These are some fairly paints I've had sitting around for a while, so they're still good. They just got thickened up a little bit. So what I did is I used some thinner and I really thinned down both bottles, and I poured them all into this bottle here, so I got a nice cool color. That's going to be my base color for now. So it's probably going to take a couple coats, so I figured it'd be a good time now before I close up at the end of the night just to get a nice base coat of silver on this gun for now, and then let this really dry for the night, and then tomorrow I could come back and I can actually start doing some shading on it, and then we could do like sort of a little bit of dry brushing around edges just to make it look like a gun that's got some life to it, a little bit of worn, but not overly worn and beat up gun, because it's like a fairly good looking gun. That's what you wanted the sculpt to do. But we just want to bring it around and just have some life to it. Alright, so it's been about an hour, and I think we're at a good position where this is dried up. Got the urge to actually keep working on this tonight, so I figured, what the hell, let's just keep plugging away. So we'll have some Vallejo dark steel from Mecha Colors here. So I'm going to try to do, the gun is actually, you know, it's held like this. So I'm at a good position now to kind of get a lot of shading stuff done. So the idea, what I'm going to do is do a lot of shading underneath areas here, around here, try to get some shading under here. And I'm not really worried if I kind of go overboard on shading, if I go too thick. Because I'm going to take it down with a little bit of like dry brushing and kind of do some wears around corners and stuff. And then if I feel that I went too far, I could pull it back down with some paint. But I just want to bring some more life into this. And then once I get through that area, I want to take some pictures to my friend and see if he wants to do any kind of change up colors around certain areas, like around this piece here and here, if he wants to go any further with it. Like, say maybe if he wants the handle here to be like some kind of a leather or something. I'm not really sure yet, but I just want to try to get the main gun to what I envision in my head, and then we could go from there, adding any kind of details. Okay, so as I was doing this detailing and stuff, I started to realize there's a casting error right going down here. I never really noticed it before, because sometimes, you know, whenever I do stuff paint-wise, there might be something I'm missing from the primer aspect. Maybe it was there, I just didn't pay much attention to it, but since we added this silver paint onto it, basically, now I'm seeing it more with the reflection in the light. So what I got is some putty here, and what I'll do is I'll putty this up, and then I'll sand it down with some of my 3M sandpaper type stuff here. This paint is actually pretty good with situations like this, because it's almost like a primer in a sense. Like these, you know, flat aluminum, the chrome silver, and some of the others from Tamiya paints. Once the paint dries, it's pretty durable, and it's almost like a primer, so you could kind of sand it down. Like you could kind of just do that, and it really doesn't do much to it. You know, it'll come off, but it doesn't like, it's not like rubbery where it's going to like start peeling and pulling off. This stuff works pretty good, because I use this for a lot of base on certain colors like yellows and other types of stuff. So it's pretty good paint. So what I'll do is I'm going to putty this up, I'll let it dry, I'll sand this down, and I'll smooth this area out, and then I can touch it up again. And then as I was working on this, as you can kind of see, we're starting to give it like a little bit of a wear underneath here and stuff. So I think it's actually pulling the gun a little bit better, making it just bring it to life. So what I might do is, once I do that and I touch this up, I might just go with a little bit of a darker color around the edges again, and then do some more dry brushing and kind of bring it out a little bit more. I like the idea that this is getting worn out, but like I said, I'm going to talk to my friend. This might actually be a different color anyway, but what I'll do is I'll just keep going with what I'm doing, and then when he sees it, he can let me know if he wants like specific things kind of changed up, or if he likes the way it is, because he's got something in mind for this project, so I just got to follow what he wants. So yeah, I'll just patch this up now, and then we'll keep going. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is I got some more of this dark steel from Vallejo, and I'm just kind of just slightly hitting it some areas just to kind of blend it together. It's kind of just giving it layers. It's giving a little bit of a texture. We don't want to darken it up too much because, like I said, we got a specific look on this one. I did a little bit more dry brushing on it, but not that much. And bring it over here. It's good to have it on the item too, so this is kind of like an easier way of doing this because you can kind of hit it where you want it instead of trying to do it at different angles. Yeah, so we got like a light gun, but it's got a little bit of wear to it now, which is kind of coming together pretty well. And it's a good thing that I'm not painting any of that stuff, and I'm not doing heavy airbrushing on this. Works out pretty well. So I think we're pretty good on that. I'm going to take some pictures, send it to my friend, see what he says. And then we go from there, thinking if I have to lighten it up more, if he likes where it's at, if he wants to add any like darker colors or, you know, anything else to the gun. But I think we're looking pretty good. It might not look all that good in the camera, only because it is metal. And, well, I think maybe you could kind of see what's going on with it. So, yeah, like we got a little bit of life to it, and we'll go from there. So I'll send some pictures to him and see what he says. Okay, we're getting back on the cable, and the reason why we've been delaying so long with him is because my friend decided he wanted a second head sculpt done. So he was working with some other sculptors, and he finally got the head done. And I told him, I said, well, if you're having a second head done for this, I'm not going to work on this anymore until we actually get the head, because I've learned from past projects for working with people is when they send me an item to work on, and I go, well, I'm having something else done for it, but work on it now, and then I'll send it to you. You can finish it up. And the problem is when you get that item, it's not flush, or you got to do some putty work, or you got to use some baby powder, and you got to do some tweaking. So then all of a sudden you ruin all the work that you've done, and it's harder to clean up. So I said, you know what? I'm not touching this anymore until you give me all the parts, because we don't know what's going to happen. I could get the head, and maybe it's not lining up correctly where I got to do some Dremel work, and then this head's got to work with that, and then you just got to go back and forth and make sure they all work. So it's a good thing I did delay it though, because when he got the second head done, the problem was when the printer printed it and they casted up the copies and sent it out, the head was way too small. So when I got it in the mail, we're ready to work on it, the head was too small. He's like this big, huge body, and the head, it was just like, I told him, I said, you know, you got to contact the printer and you're going to have to redo it because you don't want this little tiny head on the cable body. So that's what happened with that. So that's why it took a little longer to do and finish. So he did have the second head done. So here it is. It's a really good looking head. He wanted, you know, more of that Churchill, Ian Churchill look, with the grinning look. So that came out pretty good. I love the way the hair is done too. I got to be careful because it's in two pieces. So I did put a magnet in it already. I got to do some sand work, and then I might have to do a little bit of putty work around the neck area just to make sure it's nice and flush, because I think there's a little bit of a gap over here. I also got to do a little bit of sanding there, and I got to prime up the heads and stuff as well. So you can kind of see it's pushing down a little bit, so I got to kind of sand it down. So I'd be very careful. Now the other cool thing he had done with it, there's a little clear resin piece that glues onto the eye. So the eye is going to be kind of like a white, and then there's going to be like a yellow glowing off of it. So that's the only thing about this head, is once we glue in that piece, he's going to have to like hold it from the ears and the chin to pick it up and out. Because if you grab it here by accident, you'll either break the hair or you'll break the eye. So that's like one of those things I got to tell him to be careful about. So this doesn't fall out. I don't want these hair pieces to fall out. So we'll put it over here to the side. So then the other thing is he decided he wanted to change to the bases. So that's the other thing too, is now we got to worry about these bases. So as you can see over here, we have what is the deep dish pizza pan tin, or pie tin, or whatever you want to call it. I've used this in the past. So what I did is I casted up a circle piece of resin that's pretty much the size for him. As you can see, got to do some sanding underneath here. I got to sand around the edges, clean up a little bit, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to go into Illustrator, and I'm going to put make an X for the base, because now he wants like X bases, but something simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to design an X base. I'm going to mail this out to Meta John in Canada. He'll be able to do some nice etching onto it, because for me to actually score this in would be a nightmare. So as long as I can just sand this down and get this keyed up with the foot and everything and make sure it's nice and even and everything's ready to go, we can send out the base, and then I can actually get the work back to work on him. So by the time maybe he's done, the base will be done as well. But the other thing too is we're probably going to have to do another base for 2 of his other characters that he had done as well. But that's just kind of, you know, going to take some time, and we'll have to work on it. But that's where we're at with Cable. So I'm going to finish getting this head all set up. And then what we'll do is we'll get back on to working him. So I think what I'm going to probably do next is maybe get all the skin tones done. We'll get the arm done. We'll get the heads done. Get those out of the way, because I always like to do skin tones first. So this way I could work on the body, and then I could do head and hair details on it as I work and progress. So we're going to get these heads fixed up. We're going to get the base sent out, and then we'll get him finished up. Okay, so we're going to start working on Cable skin now, and we'll try to get this done, because I usually like to work on skin first and then do the outfits, because it's always easier to see how the skin works with the outfit than to do the outfit and try to get the skin to work with the outfit. Just how I work. So one of the first things I like to do is if there's any heads that are showing teeth, like this one Cable head, it's easier for me to do the teeth first, get them nice and detailed up with an airbrush, some washing, and then seal it, and then put silly putty on it, and then the skin tone, and then do it just teeth afterwards, because if I try to paint with a paintbrush on teeth, sometimes you put too much on, it seeps between the cracks, you lose some of the detail, so it's easier to do with the paintbrush. And then I mixed in some Garage Kits transparency leather, and you can kind of see I didn't make them pure white, so the back left and right of the teeth into the deepness has some of that darkness in there, so it kind of brings it out, it blends a little bit more, because teeth aren't pure white, so you want to just kind of play with it a little bit. Over here with the right arm, what I did is I rigged up a little system with the rod and a steel screwed piece in the back to hold it up, because I like to paint the pieces separated, but I like to have it so it's in the angle that it's going to go into the statue, just in case I want to force some shadows underneath some areas, then to have it upside down and do it wrong and then put on the statue and it doesn't look right. So I rigged up that little system there. So once the other head is set up with the teeth, I can seal those and then mask that off and then finish up the head with my base coat. Now what I did is basically you can see this little Cable bottle here. This is his base color, and what I did is I kind of used some P3 paint into this bottle, because this is fairly thick, and then I used Garage Kits flesh tone to kind of thin it down. So I got a nice base coat of skin tone that I like with this. Now, I don't have a formula for painting skin tones. I just kind of keep blending and blending and blending until I get it to where I want it, and then that's pretty much how I do it. So we're just going to kind of fly through this. You'll see how everything works out. Maybe I'll explain some stuff at the end, but I've done a couple other videos on my channel in the past of how to paint skin tones and how I paint. So if you want to follow some more detailed stuff, you can look up those. But for right now, we're just going to kind of go over the paints. We have some transparency bright flesh, some transparency pale flesh. We have burnt sienna hue from Golden. They don't make that anymore, but I got a couple bottles left of it because I like to use that for like mixing in some shading. And then over here we have some transparency Garage Kits flesh, and then some P3 formula flesh wash. So these are kind of a lot of the colors I'm going to be using. If anything else comes up down the line, I'll add them in, but that's kind of like a lot of my base stuff right now. I'm going to have to talk to my friend about the arm though, because this is one of the things that I always like to know before I do the skin tones, because I have to kind of add it in as I'm doing my blending. If he wants the veins to have any kind of blues or reds in them. Personally, when I do my own superhero type stuff and I got veins, I don't like to force like the colors in the veins, because I don't go for that realistic look. I like to have it more of a comic book looking, because I guess I'm a big fan of the whole Alpha series of Capcom Street Fighter stuff, where they've always hinted the veins were there, but they never really colored it in. It's just kind of how I like that type of artwork from their art books. But well, I'll ask him, see what he wants, and then I could just kind of plan it all out. But this is where we're at with the skin tones for now. I'm going to get this head finished out with the teeth, and then we're just going to start plugging away and get these done. So these are only 3 parts that have skin tone on the statue. Anything else on him is all other colors, so it's fairly simple with skin tone. So we're going to get this set up and start plugging away. Alright, so basically what I did is a rough sketch of the item. Your basic skin tone flat color all over the items, And then what I did is I went a very heavy shading with the burnt sienna hue. So what I did is I went upwards at an angle, so that helps me bring out a lot of these shadows and stuff. This also helps me let me know where some of the sculpt is. It starts helping me adding, I need to add some like a little bit of reds or oranges here and a little bit more of like shading here, and then go back and forth. Same thing with the arm. So you can also see that after I did that, I misted some of the semi-transparent Garage Kit flesh, and what that does is I go down there at an angle, and that lets me know where I'm hitting certain areas. So the shading in here and here and here got taken out, so it just lets me know that I got to get back in those areas and work them out a little bit more. Now I did talk to my friend. He wants the veins to show with like blues and reds in them, so what I'm going to do now is, since this is kind of like my base sketching of the item, I guess you could say, I want to do some of the vein work now, and then when I do some skin tones over it, that vein work will get taken down a little bit, but it'll still be there. And then if I need to bring it back at the very end, I could go very, very light, you know, shading of like the blues and reds and stuff. But right now, it's kind of a good chance to do it now. Bring them out, so this way you just keep blending. So I'm just going to keep working and blending, adding color, shading, and going from there until I get it to where I want it. Okay, so I did a lot of blending. I got to do a little bit more work on it, but usually at this point what I like to do is go into the garage and hit it with Tester's Dull Coat. Give it a good nice coating where it's almost like shiny wet but not bleeding. This sort of helps a lot of the paint kind of melt together and sort of blend a little bit more. Plus it kind of brings out some errors I'm not really seeing. It's kind of hard to explain. You'd have to see it in person. And then what I'm going to do is let it just dry out for the night and come back tomorrow and like get a fresh eyes at it and see if there's anything else I want to do. Probably put the items on the statue too, add some colors, you know, like grab the blue and yellow paint, put it next to the pieces, seeing how things are looking. Also having the other arm on him too would help out as well. Just kind of like play with the colors a little bit, like paint cans next to it, just to see how things are looking. Probably take some pics, show it to my friend, see if he wants anything changed or if he's liking where it's going, and just keep playing with it. So I'm going to go get the Tester's Dull Coat on now, come back tomorrow, and we'll see how it's looking. Okay, so the face and the skins, all that is done. I went ahead and did the eyes on both heads. The right eye is pretty much done on both heads because I pretty much got that all detailed up. I made sure I got the trimming done. And the left eye is just some white paint for now, because what's going to happen is after I'm ready to put those clear yellow pieces on over the eyes, what's going to happen is I'll put some better metallic-y paint on those eyes, so this way when you put the clear yellow on it, it kind of glows a little bit better and it jumps out a little bit more than just white. So I'm going to worry about that later on down the line. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to seal this flesh tone paints, because if I don't seal them, these paints have a habit of scraping very easily. And especially if you're handling, swapping out the heads in and out, or breaking them down and moving them, you got to be kind of careful. So what I like to do is duplicate car paint on it, get it nice and glossy and protective coat, let it dry for the night. Tomorrow I'm going to do my Mecha flat matte varnish over on top of it, dull it back down, and that should be good to go. And then as far as the rest of it, it's a simple white hair paint up. I have a grayish blue mixture here where I'll do all my trim, and then what we'll do is we'll mask that off, and then we'll do airbrushing with that and white paint, get the hair done, get everything attached, make sure my friend is happy with it all before we finalize up the heads. And that's pretty much it for the skin tones and faces. From right now, this is the hardest part, is getting all that skin tone done and detailing it up. But now that we're past this hump, we can move on to the next stuff. Okay, we're going to start painting up the body now. This should go fairly fast, only because it's mostly just like a blue outfit with black shading and yellow. But the problem is, yellow is a very, very tricky color to work with. If you've ever played with yellow paints before, if you put a drop of black in there, it turns it into a very ugly looking yellow color. If you put a drop of brown into it, you get like a mustard yellow. If you put a drop of blue in there, it turns green right away. So yellow is very, very hard to work with. So if I paint this outfit with this blue black that he has, and then I try to paint yellow on top of it, that blue black is going to show through the yellow, and you have to keep painting layer and layer and layer to get that yellow away. So it's easier for me just to do the outfit first, and then when I'm ready to do the yellows, I'll do a base color of the titanium gold for Tamiya, and what that'll do is it'll give it like a metallic base on the yellow areas, and then I'll paint yellow on top of that, and it's nice and bright, and it shines out, and it looks good. Now you may be asking, well, why don't you do the yellows first and mask them off, or mask off all that stuff? The reason being is the bottom of the outfit is the blue black, and then all the parts that are on top of it are the yellow, and it's easier to do like this, the outfit, the blue black here, 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 and all there, and then mask that off and then do the yellow part. If I try and mask all these yellow parts off now, I'm just wasting time. And literally, I could spend like an hour or 2 hours masking it, paint this blue black, pull it off, and then spend another 2 hours masking everything else off, when I can just paint this right now and then mask it off, do the gold, and then do the yellow on top of it. It's just easier that way. So that's what the whole process is, and that's pretty much a little explanation of yellows. It's very, very tricky. So, looking at the artwork and the way my friend wants them painted is like exactly like the comic book, which means it's going to be a very dark black outfit with like the blue shading on it. So he doesn't want me to do anything else to it. He wants it more comic accurate as much as possible. So I said, not a problem. We did some tests on another item a while back, so I got an idea what he wants. I'm going to do a base color now of this Superman paint that I had for a while. It's just a blue paint. Just get a nice base blue on there. And then from there, I'm going to start darkening it up with some shading, gray, and some black. And then I also got this Badger blue paint as well to kind of go in there and make it a little bit darker blue. He doesn't want it light blue. He doesn't want it like a different variation. He doesn't want it pearled. He just wants it looking exactly like the comic book. And normally, I don't like throwing a lot of black paints into items, but since we're going with a comic book character with a specific look, that's what we're going for. So what I'm going to do is just start painting away on this. We'll let it dry up for the day, and then when I'm ready to, we come back and sit down and mask all these areas off, and then we could just do all the yellow stuff on top of it. so sort of a small update. This project is kind of progressing in different directions, but I think we're pretty much at the point where we got it. So we did some tests with the yellow, and basically my friend likes the lemon yellow a little bit brighter, more like the comic book artwork, instead of putting like browns and oranges in it. He doesn't want to go that route, so we did a little bit of testing here, as you can see. So we have a thing of women's makeup over here, and we're pretty much using like these skin colors and these lighter browns and tans and stuff like that. And what we're doing is we're going in here and we're doing some shade areas with the pastels, just to darken up some of these like pieces that connect and just bring it out a little bit more. He doesn't want to go the orange look. He doesn't want to go like the Wolverine look where you got sort of like hints of browns and oranges in the shading area. He wants to keep it a little bit more brighter like the comics. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I got to go around these legs and around up here around the pouches and stuff like that and everything up there. Once I get all the shading done, I'm going to pretty much seal it up with some flat varnish. And then once that's done, we got to finish up the pouches and the X's on his chest and stuff. So the pouches are going to be sort of close to the yellow, but they're going to be just slightly a little bit of a different color, just so we have a little bit of a breaking up of the item so it's not all pure yellow. But we don't want to go overboard with it being like a really different yellow, or like heavy shading or anything. So right now it's just a matter of just sitting here, getting all these stuff worked out and make stuff pop a little bit more. That's the idea. So, like with yellow, like I said, you could go overboard with yellow and you can add some like browns, oranges, or even like a hint of blue or black. And what will happen is the whole item in yellow will turn to a mud in that color. So we want to keep it up as bright as possible. But also we have a lot of texture on these legs too that we want to keep. We don't want to take any of that texture away. So I'm just going to go around now and just work out all the shading, bring out some of these areas and details a little bit more, kind of clean it up, and then start plugging away on the pouches and the rest of the item. Okay, so we're progressing on this a little bit faster. Some of it I had to work off of camera because my friend actually came down. He saw it in person. We actually went over a couple things. So then today what I did is I did a little bit of work on it. Of course, the camera died, stuff like that. So, but we're getting a little bit further. Doing little tedious things that really don't need to be filmed too much. It gives you a little bit of better idea where we're at. So you can see over here what I'm working on is painting up the hair pieces. And then we have the finger that goes onto the gun, which is actually behind him at the moment, back there. So you can see that gun is missing the finger. So what I'm doing is I'm going to paint up the finger first because the gloves are blue but the straps are yellow. Then this way I can attach the finger and I don't have to worry about getting underneath of the gun piece and everything. It'll be already painted. I'll probably paint some of the finger on the glove too as well, get some of that painted up. And then I can attach them and clean that up. Far as his shoulder pads go, with these shoulder straps, what I did is it's kind of like the same yellow I worked on the whole item, but what I did is I added some like pearls to it, so it's a little bit shinier, but it's not metallic-y like these pieces here. So it stands out a little bit more. Now over here, as you can see, I've kind of redid the pouches a little bit. We kind of just changed up the color a little bit more so they're a little bit separated from the bright lemon yellow that's on him. A little bit dark yellow so it feels more like leathery pouches. Just to kind of break it up just a little bit but not go overboard. I also did the knee pads. Tried to go for like, you know, that softer, feels like, you know, knee pads-ish, I guess you can say. So I got those going as well. So those are pretty much ready to go. So having my friend over here and kind of going over it, we kind of went over the color schemes and stuff, and he really likes the lemon yellow on him going against the, you know, darkish blue, because I know a lot of factory and like production statues out there, they're always not really pure yellow or bright yellows. They're always like a very orange yellow or very like a mustard looking color. He likes the idea that this is more lemon yellow like the comics and stuff. So that's where we're at with this right now. So next steps, what I have to do is go in there, finish the X's on the belt and the two pieces up top, clean up any details, finish up the hair pieces, and then we're going to get working on the hands, especially the clear pieces. Those are a little bit tricky. But as of right now, we're almost finished. We've gotten pretty far on it. It's just a matter of, you know, it's just blue and yellow, so it's really not that much to it other than trying to make it stand out a little bit more than just making flat yellow on the item and also changing up some of the other pieces. So that's where we're at. I still also have to work on the circle base, which means cable is probably going to be finished up before the circle base is even sent out to get etched. But that's just the way this project is working. So like the idea is I want to finish up cable. I can pass it off to my friend, and then we can send out the X base. I can get it back painted whenever, and then just give him the X base, and he's just ready to go with that. But this is kind of where we're at with this. So this is one of those projects that we just got delayed because of the change ahead, and then we changed up the base. But that's just the way some of these projects work. So that's where we're at. What I'll do is I'll get finished up, and we're going to start working on the hands and some of the clear pieces.